Imagine for a moment that every action you take with good intentions, no matter how noble or well-meaning, could secretly plant the seeds of chaos. Think of the policies that promise prosperity but end in crisis, the relationships where kindness turns into control, or the innovations that were meant to liberate but instead create dependency. What if I told you that behind many of humanity's greatest mistakes lies a fascinating phenomenon known as the Cobra effect, a powerful lesson about the dangers of unintended consequences? In this video, we will embark on a journey through philosophy, psychology, and history to uncover how actions born from the purest of intentions can spiral into disasters we never anticipated. And here is my promise to you. As we move forward, I will reveal insights that may forever change the way you think about leadership, relationships, society, and even your own personal decisions. And I must warn you, the final revelation we reach will be the most powerful of all, one that holds the key to mastering this paradox of life. Before we dive deep, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. This space is dedicated to exploring the wisdom of philosophers, psychologists, and great thinkers to inspire personal growth and provide tools for navigating the challenges of modern life. By engaging with this video, you are not just supporting the channel, you are taking part in a collective search for deeper understanding, and I promise you, what you will discover here may change the way you see not only the world, but also yourself. Now let us begin our exploration. The Cobra effect gets its name from a striking historical story. During the period of British rule in India, the government noticed a dangerous problem. The streets of Delhi were infested with cobras. In an attempt to solve it, officials came up with what seemed like a clever solution. They offered a reward for every dead cobra brought to them. At first, the plan appeared successful. People eagerly hunted the snakes and many were killed. Yet soon, something entirely unexpected happened. Instead of eliminating cobras, people began breeding them in secret, killing them only when they wanted the reward. When the government realized the manipulation and stopped the program, the breeders released their now worthless snakes into the wild. The streets of Delhi ended up with more cobras than before. What began as an effort to reduce danger ended in disaster. This story illustrates a profound truth. When we attempt to control life in simplistic ways, ignoring the complexity of human behavior and the hidden consequences of our actions, we often create more problems than we solve. Psychologists refer to this as the law of unintended consequences, and the Cobra effect is one of its most dramatic manifestations. But this is not just a historical curiosity. The same pattern repeats across time and across every dimension of life. Think about government policies that attempt to solve poverty, but end up deepening dependency. Think about technological advances created to free humanity from toil, yet in many cases leading to disconnection, anxiety, or even addiction. Consider personal relationships, where one partner's attempt to protect or care for the other slowly suffocates the bond with overprotection or control. Again and again we see that good intentions, when not guided by wisdom and foresight, can backfire in painful ways. Why does this happen? At the core lies our limited ability to predict how complex systems react to change. Human societies, economies, and even relationships are not machines with predictable outcomes. They are living organisms with countless variables, emotions, and hidden motivations. When we impose solutions without understanding these layers, the results can be catastrophic. As the philosopher Friedrich Hayek warned, the fatal conceit of mankind is believing we can shape society according to our will without unforeseen repercussions. This forces us to ask an uncomfortable but vital question. How many of our current solutions, whether in politics, education, health, or even our personal lives, are actually creating more problems than they solve? Could it be that some of the greatest crises we face today are not the result of malice but of misguided good intentions? As you listen, I invite you to reflect. Can you recall a moment in your own life where you tried to help, but the outcome turned out worse than before? Perhaps you tried to solve a conflict with a friend and ended up making the rift deeper. Perhaps you gave advice with love, only to see it misunderstood and rejected. These small personal experiences are microcosms of the Cobra effect, reminders that even at the individual level, our noble impulses can sometimes unleash unintended pain. This realization is not meant to discourage you, but to awaken your awareness. Because when we understand the Cobra effect, we begin to grasp one of the most important truths about human action. Intention is not enough. As Viktor Frankl, the great psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, once wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That space, between intention and action, is where wisdom must enter, or else the Cobra effect will take over." In the next stage of this exploration, we will uncover some of the most striking examples of the Cobra effect in modern times, cases where governments, corporations, and even families, acting with seemingly good intentions, set off waves of destruction that no one could have anticipated. And remember, the final insight I will reveal will not only help you recognize this pattern in the world around you, but will empower you to break free from it in your own life. The Cobra effect may sound like a curious story from colonial India, but its shadow stretches across the modern world in ways far more alarming and relevant than we might want to admit. If in Delhi cobras multiplied because of short-sighted incentives, in today's societies the same logic has shaped economies, politics, and even the dynamics of our personal lives, and every time we ignore the hidden complexity of human behavior, we risk turning our best solutions into disasters. Let us begin with an example from economics. In the 20th century, several governments attempted to control rent prices in cities to make housing more affordable. The intention was noble, to protect families from the burden of excessive rents and ensure that everyone had a safe place to live. But the unintended consequence was that landlords stopped maintaining their properties, construction of new housing slowed, and in many cases, the quality of living conditions deteriorated drastically. Instead of helping tenants, the policy reduced available housing and worsened the crisis. This is a textbook case of the Cobra effect, a well-meaning solution triggering the opposite of what was intended. Another striking example comes from environmental policy. Consider the attempts to reduce harmful emissions by promoting biofuels. On paper, this initiative seemed like a brilliant idea, renewable, clean, and supportive of global sustainability. Yet, the surge in demand for biofuel crops led to massive deforestation, destruction of ecosystems, and even food shortages in certain regions as agricultural land was diverted from feeding people to fueling cars. Once again, a strategy designed to save the planet ended up contributing to new forms of destruction. History is full of such paradoxes. During the Great Depression in the United States, government programs were implemented to destroy crops and livestock in order to raise prices and stabilize the agricultural economy. The intention was economic recovery, but the result was the waste of food at a time when millions of families were starving. It is almost painful to imagine that the very policies designed to help the people ended up deepening their suffering. Yet the Cobra effect is not confined to governments and institutions. It lives within our personal lives as well. Think of parents who, out of love, try to protect their children from every hardship. At first, this may look like care, but in the long run, it may produce adults who are unprepared for the challenges of life, who lack resilience, and who fear failure. The very protection meant to shield becomes the prison that weakens. Psychologists call this the danger of overprotection, a lesson echoed by thinkers like Carl Jung, who reminded us that the greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents. The Cobra effect teaches us that human beings often underestimate complexity. We act on linear logic. If A causes B, then removing A or rewarding B will fix the problem. But the world is not linear. It is full of feedback loops, incentives, and hidden variables. The great systems theorist Donella Meadows once wrote that leverage points in systems are not intuitive. In fact, the ones that people most commonly push usually make matters worse. This insight reveals why so many good ideas fail. We push at the wrong points without realizing the ripple effects that follow. Let me ask you, how many times have you seen people trying to solve problems in relationships or workplaces with quick fixes that ended up worsening the situation? Have you ever witnessed a leader who imposed more rules to stop mistakes, only to create frustration and rebellion among their team? These everyday examples are no different from the Cobras in Delhi. The details may change, but the underlying principle remains: the human tendency to underestimate unintended consequences. And here lies a deeper philosophical point. The Cobra effect is not just about failed policies or misguided strategies. It is about the very condition of being human. Our actions are guided by limited knowledge, imperfect foresight, and emotions that sometimes blind us. As the philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once said, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." We act with hope, yet only later do we see the patterns and consequences. The Cobra effect is a mirror reflecting our own vulnerability to this existential paradox. But awareness changes everything. Once we recognize this pattern, we begin to cultivate humility in the face of complexity. We stop rushing to impose control and instead begin to ask deeper questions. What are the hidden incentives at play? What behaviors might this decision encourage? What long-term effects might emerge beyond the immediate result? This shift of perspective transforms the Cobra effect from a curse into a teacher. Now imagine if our leaders, our educators, our families, and even ourselves applied this wisdom before making decisions. How different might our societies look? How many crises could have been avoided? How much unnecessary suffering could have been prevented? In the next part of our journey, we will go even further. We will uncover how the Cobra effect appears in some of the most unexpected corners of modern life, technology, medicine, and even our pursuit of happiness. And as we move closer to the end, remember, the final revelation I promised you will not only expose the deepest lesson hidden within the Cobra effect, but will also offer a key to transforming your life and decisions in ways you may never have considered before. We have already seen how the Cobra effect emerges in history, economics, and even family life. Yet in our age of rapid technological growth, medical innovation, and relentless pursuit of happiness, the paradox of good intentions turning into harmful results has only grown more striking. In fact, the Cobra effect may be more relevant today than at any other time in human history. Let us begin with technology. Think about social media. At its birth, it was celebrated as a tool to connect the world, to give everyone a voice, and to bring people closer together. The vision was almost utopian, a digital town square where ideas and cultures could flourish. But what unfolded? Instead of uniting humanity, social media platforms have often fueled division, spreading misinformation, eroding attention spans, and fostering anxiety and loneliness. The very platforms designed to empower individuals often end up enslaving them to algorithms engineered for engagement rather than truth. The Cobra effect here is painfully clear. What was meant to liberate communication has in many ways shackled it. The same paradox is visible in medicine. Take the example of antibiotics. They were once hailed as a miracle of modern science, saving countless lives from bacterial infections. Yet their overuse, driven by the good intention of protecting health, has led to one of the greatest medical crises of our time: antibiotic resistance. Now, diseases once easily treated are becoming deadly again, not because antibiotics failed, but because their very success invited misuse and overdependence. A cure, born from compassion and innovation, created a new threat far larger than the one it defeated. Even in the realm of psychology and personal growth, we see similar patterns. Consider the modern obsession with happiness. Entire industries promise us joy: self-help books, apps, courses, and motivational seminars. The intention is pure: to help people live fulfilling lives. Yet paradoxically, the more people chase happiness as a goal, the more elusive it becomes. Psychologists like Viktor Frankl argued that happiness cannot be pursued directly. It arises as a byproduct of meaning, purpose, and contribution. By obsessing over happiness, society often cultivates the opposite: anxiety, comparison, and dissatisfaction. The Cobra effect once again reminds us that even the pursuit of joy can breed sorrow when misunderstood. This pattern is not just theoretical, it is deeply personal. Imagine a person who, wanting to support a loved one struggling with difficulties, constantly offers solutions and advice. The intention is love, yet the result may be resentment, as the loved one feels unheard, controlled, or diminished. Or consider someone who works tirelessly to secure financial stability for their family, only to become absent from their children's lives. The pursuit of security unintentionally creates emotional distance, and the very thing they wanted to protect, the family bond, weakens. These stories are the everyday faces of the Cobra effect. At this point, we must pause and ask, what is it that blinds us so often? Why do human beings repeatedly fall into the trap of believing that good intentions guarantee good results? The answer lies in a deep psychological bias. We tend to overvalue our intentions and underestimate the complexity of consequences. It is comforting to believe that if our heart is in the right place, the outcome will follow. But reality is more demanding. It requires foresight, humility, and an understanding that intentions alone are not enough. Philosophers and psychologists throughout history have warned us of this trap. Immanuel Kant, for example, emphasized the importance of duty and principle, yet he also acknowledged that the moral worth of actions is judged not only by intent, but by the broader impact they have. Likewise, Carl Gustav Jung reminded us that the shadow, those hidden unintended parts of ourselves and our actions, often surfaces when we least expect it. In the Cobra effect, we see the shadow of our noblest efforts. But if this is true, then what is the way forward? Should we stop acting out of fear of unintended consequences? Certainly not. The lesson of the Cobra effect is not paralysis, but wisdom. It calls us to act with greater awareness, to examine the ripple effects of our choices, and to cultivate patience in the face of complexity. It urges us to recognize that life is not a straight line, but a web, and every action vibrates through that web in ways we may not see immediately. Here lies a profound challenge. How can we design actions, whether policies, innovations, or personal choices, that minimize the Cobra effect? The answer begins with humility. We must accept that our knowledge is limited, that complexity cannot be conquered by quick fixes. Instead, we must embrace feedback, adapt, and remain open to changing course when reality reveals unintended results. In systems theory, this is called learning by feedback, and in life it is called wisdom. Now reflect with me for a moment. In your own life, where might you be unknowingly breeding cobras? Where might your best intentions be planting seeds of unintended harm? It could be in the way you approach your career, your family, your health, or even your own inner growth. These questions are not meant to bring guilt, but to awaken awareness, because awareness is the first step to transformation. In the final part of this journey, we will uncover the deepest insight the Cobra effect has to offer. We will explore how this paradox contains a hidden key to not only understanding the world, but mastering our role within it. The final revelation will show you that while good intentions alone may not be enough, there is a higher path that transforms them into powerful, life-changing outcomes. And when you grasp this truth, the Cobra effect will no longer be a curse. It will become one of your greatest teachers. Throughout this journey, we have explored the Cobra effect as a paradox that appears in history, economics, technology, medicine, and even our most personal relationships. We have seen how noble intentions can trigger unintended harm, and how human beings often underestimate the complexity of life. But now it is time to uncover the deepest lesson hidden within this phenomenon, the insight that has the power not only to change how you view the world, but also how you live within it. The truth is this: the Cobra effect is not merely a story about mistakes. It is a mirror of human limitation, but also an invitation to transcend those limitations. The final revelation is that the Cobra effect teaches us to evolve from the illusion of control to the wisdom of responsibility. Good intentions may not guarantee good outcomes, but conscious responsibility, guided by humility and reflection, can transform even failures into growth. Think of it this way: the British officials in India were not malicious. They simply believed they could control reality with a single incentive. Governments that imposed rent controls were not cruel. They wanted to help families. Parents who overprotect children are not heartless. They are loving. In all of these cases, the mistake was not in the heart, but in the vision. It was the failure to see the bigger picture, the failure to anticipate consequences, the failure to ask, what comes next? And this is where the transformation lies. The most powerful way to overcome the Cobra effect is to embrace systems thinking, to train ourselves to look beyond the immediate, to see how actions ripple through time and affect the whole. When we cultivate this habit, we shift from being mere actors of good intentions to becoming architects of wise outcomes. Philosopher Aristotle once wrote that true virtue lies not only in good intention, but in the right action, at the right time, in the right measure. This is precisely the antidote to the Cobra effect. It is not enough to act with a good heart. We must act with discernment, We must balance passion with perspective, urgency with patience, and intention with foresight. Consider how this applies to your own life. Imagine a conflict at work where you feel the urge to step in and solve it quickly. A good intention might push you to impose a solution, but wisdom would pause and ask, what deeper needs are at play here? What might be the unintended consequences of my intervention? By pausing, by listening, by seeking the hidden layers, you create space for solutions that do not backfire. The same is true in relationships. Instead of overprotecting someone you love, responsibility means empowering them. Instead of controlling, you support. Instead of fixing, you listen. Responsibility is love in its highest form, because it respects the freedom and growth of the other. And at the level of society, the lesson is no different. The Cobra effect warns us against simplistic solutions to complex problems. Poverty, inequality, environmental crises, and even the search for happiness cannot be solved with quick incentives or surface-level fixes. They demand deeper vision, cooperation, and the humility to adapt when reality resists our expectations. This is why the Cobra effect is one of the most important lessons for leaders, innovators, parents, and anyone seeking personal growth. It calls us to move beyond the innocence of believing that good intentions are enough, and to step into the maturity of recognizing that wisdom, responsibility, and awareness must guide our actions. But here is the most liberating insight of all. Even when the Cobra effect strikes, even when our intentions go wrong, life offers us a second gift. Every unintended consequence becomes an opportunity to learn. Failure is not the end of the story. It is the feedback we need to grow. The snakes released in Delhi were a disaster, yes, but they also left us with a timeless lesson about human behavior and the dangers of short-sightedness. In this way, the Cobra effect is not just a warning. It is a teacher that never stops speaking. So let me ask you one final question. What will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue to live believing that intentions alone are enough, or will you rise to the higher calling of responsibility, foresight, and wisdom? The choice is yours. Every day, in small and great ways, you have the power to turn good intentions into meaningful outcomes. You have the power to transform the Cobra effect from a curse into a guide. As we close this exploration, remember, the world is complex, life is unpredictable, and consequences often surprise us. But within that uncertainty lies your opportunity to grow, to act with awareness, and to become a force for genuine good. Do not fear the Cobra effect. Learn from it, rise above it, and let it shape you into someone whose impact reaches beyond intentions and creates real, lasting change. If you found value in this journey, I invite you to subscribe, share this message with others, and leave your reflections in the comments. Perhaps you have lived your own Cobra effect, an unintended consequence that taught you a painful yet transformative lesson. Share it because your story may help someone else see what they cannot yet see, and above all, carry this with you. Intention without wisdom can create chaos, but intention guided by wisdom creates transformation. The Cobra effect is not the end. It is the beginning of a deeper way of living. Thanks for looking.